Camille, why don't I hand it off to you?
Oh, thank you very much. First, I want to say I met Evelyn de Jesus when we were campaigning in 2020 in Pennsylvania, and it was amazing. And it's just so honored to be here back with her and look forward to continuously working with her again, and just honored to be here with the Institute and the AFT. I also just want to make sure folks know that I am wearing the Voto Latino hat. I'm a senior advisor for Voto Latino and have been working with them on to build partnerships and working closely with people such as Clarissa, who I adore, and really just understands the policy and numbers just through and through. And so I don't want to go through too much on the numbers, except to really say a couple different things. One is Gladys is absolutely right around young voters and absolutely right about the people that actually are registered. When you follow that voter, you actually get them out to vote. And every day, every hour, some Latino turns 18, and people just don't understand that. In battleground states, what we're not realizing, whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican, but Republicans have been investing in Arizona since 2016 and 2020, and we have been talking and knocking on those doors. And Clarissa and I have been knocking on those doors that Arizona was a place to invest in Latinos because they could be a very decisive factor in that space. I was in Nevada over the weekend, knocking on doors and talking to voters, all types of voters. The most important thing that I think I could ever talk about in terms of educating and reaching out to voters, there were two people. One was a woman as an Uber driver who picked us up to go to another event, and we were knocking on doors with Make the Road Nevada and then SEIU. And she basically said to us, well, again, voters only talk to me, people only talk to me when they need to. She was an independent voter, young, right? No more than maybe 28, right? So just the exact demographic that we were talking about, right? Older, she said her mother was a person who, was recruited, right? And wound up voting a different way than she might vote, right? And I think that is, two jobs, right? And the opportunity to is really struggling. And then a business owner, right? A male business owner who we walked out after we went to a big event with Latinos and basically said the same thing. No one talks to me. They only talk to me every 4 years. So the importance of engaging Latino voters all the time is so important, right? 20%, 16% of, 16% of Latinos actually make or break the elections, and people don't really understand that. They don't understand that in many battleground states, those are very important votes that we actually need to engage and talk about. Look, we're 2 weeks away from the election. Everyone's talking about what message we should talk about. Most people already have their votes in their brains. They're voting early or they've decided, right? And so right now, what we need to do is focus on our base of support, right? I would have said 6 months ago, if you were talking to me, or 3 or 4 months ago, if we wanted to talk messaging, I could have went through it with you and say, this is what we need to do to talk to voters. I'm sure Clarissa and folks here like Sonja would be able to talk to you about that. We've seen tremendous polling. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the fact that if you are talking to Latinos and you are a teacher, an educator, and you have the opportunity to go out there, turn out your base of support, because that is what's going to decide this election. Whatever position that you take, it is going to decide that. And that's what's really, really important within the Latino community. And I just also want to kind of just say that if you are out there and if you're not on the field, get on the phones, text, because it really is a make or break type election. Whatever folks think in Nevada, in Arizona, in all these states, whether or not we invested, we can definitely, hindsight is 2020, but right now we have to get our vote out. That's kind of what I would say here.
Outstanding. And I have to apologize and all of the wonderful things I got to say about you at the beginning. You are right. I completely missed your work as the senior partnerships advisor for Voto Latino, of all of the wonderful things you did. So thank you so much for calling that out. And I would actually love to follow up with you that because Voto Latino has been around for a number of election cycles. I think you're over 18 years old. And you are not just active in presidential election years. There is a lot of work that happens. Sort of in all of that time, what are some of the promising patterns you've seen in voter engagement and in participation, voter registration? Um, what would you say some of those patterns are that we can really be proud of and look forward to maybe even growing some more?
Social media is the new thing for young voters. They just love it, no matter, I mean, and like the doors are so important and knocking on doors and talking and getting on the phones is very important. But social media is where folks talk and communicate through WhatsApp, through digital, through Instagram, all the newer apps that I have no idea what they are. But our young folks and our campus organizers, they literally are able to really talk to each other through their followers, whether it's like 20 to a couple hundred, and then micro influencers, folks who are just doing homework and cooking in their dorms, right? Those are actually the new tactics and opportunities that we are continuously seeing, right? Before, I would say, Voto Latino is 20 years young, and before it was, it's like the celebrity, that they put out a video, and oh my God, it would just blow up, and people would follow that boat, right? But now it's really just kind of regular folks getting on raw camera, talking about their issues, right? Whether it's a teacher who just came home and or just graduated or like all of that is what people are watching all the time, and getting into that algorithm and getting into that feed is so important. When you're doing your makeup and you want to talk about politics, that's what we're finding is a good pattern to continuously using when talking to young people. And then it's campus organizing. I have an amazing campus organizer, Nicholas Crookson, who works with us, and we have about 100 or so campuses that we work with. All of them like will get on social, talk about what they're doing, have exciting conversations, and it has to happen organically. Instead, before you would give them the talking points, you would run the scripts for them, you would say, this is what you need. They don't want that. They want to be able to talk about their personal stories, their narrative, and why it's important to them. Why, we were talking to someone in Nevada who's just knocking on doors. She's undocumented. She remembers going through the Rio Grande and going into the water and hiding from La Migra. And she tells that story. There's an LGBTQ person that we talked to who wanted to tell their story about the fear that they had about this election and what would happen to them, right? And their future, depending on what the election is. And we recorded that, and that video got an immense amount of views, right? And engagement. And I think that is kind of where we want to lead people. And those are kind of the patterns we want to continue. And then there is the real stuff too, is the knocking on that door, getting on that bus and making those phone calls. And some folks, the kids don't really like text, like phone calls. They'll do the text though more often than anything.
That's outstanding. And just really reinforcing those personal spheres of influence, and that they might look different than personal spheres of influence from different generations, but clearly that idea of what matters to me is what is really going to matter at the end of the day, to influence me, to get me to register to vote, and then to get me to come up with a plan, and then to actually get me to the polling place. That's really, really incredible background.